Can you hear me now? Sorry. Do you hear me now? Okay.
Say what you mean.
It's on.
What are you saying, keep it civil?
Tell me what you tried to say. He said,
I have no idea. No counseling, talking about education. She's almost committed to there. That's it. The last 5 or 6, that's it. Let's see. Counseling, he wasn't in none of the budget. I know it. Can see what they were to say you cannot my dad's farmers 52s. He's dead now. He did not like one time I think he learned coming into the river, took that clear cut. I don't know how many you cut down. You had certain things you had to leave up. Other guys would leave it cut, they'll leave cut. You know, come down here and you can do it, that's right.
Okay, folks, I've got 6:30. If I can recall Donna up here. Donna? Donna? Oh, you're bringing it forward? Okay. All right. Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to the August 16th, 2022 meeting of the Planning Commission, Owen County Planning Commission. It's customary that before our meetings, we do the Pledge of Allegiance, so if everyone would rise, face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Dan, if you'll do the roll call, please.
Robin Cooper. Present. Ernie Cole.
Here.
Norm Warner.
Here.
Bill Purcell.
Here.
Donna McIntyre. Here. Bob Curry.
Here.
Mike Swafford.
Here.
Thank you, Suzanne. Okay, approval of minutes for July the 19th. You all had the minutes sent to you. And you've looked them over, I'm sure, so I would entertain a motion.
Approve. Second.
Bill Purcell, Donna McIntyre, second. All in favor, raise your hand. 7-0. Old business. Preliminary plat for the Kevin Cooper Rolling Meadows Phase 3 subdivision preliminary plat. Before we go further, I have to read 12-4, which is the plat approval procedure written application. This is the criteria we have to use when considering these types of business. Person desiring approval of the plat for the purposes of recording it under Article 2 shall submit to the Plan Commission a written application preliminary plat that includes the following: name of the subdivision, names and addresses of the owners, the subdivider, and the county planner, land planning consultant, engineer, or surveyor who prepared the plat. Track boundary lines with dimensions, bearings, angles, in reference to sections, townships, and range lines or corners. Lot layout showing dimensions and numbers, parcels to be dedicated or reserved for schools, parks, playgrounds, and other public or community purposes. Building setback lines, streets and right-of-ways and or adjoining the subdivision by name, width, approximate gradient, type, and width of pavement, and including curbs, sidewalks, crosswalks, trees, and other relevant information. Location, width, and purpose of easement. Location and approximate size of capacity of utilities. Contours at vertical intervals of 5 feet. Legend of or notes. Other features significantly affecting the subdivision. Scale, north point, and date. Phases, if any, in which the subdivision is to be constructed. Drainage plan prepared and certified by a registered professional engineer pursuant to Indiana law. Location, owner, zoning, and use of adjacent properties, including location, size, and use of all buildings within 50 feet of the lot lines. A description of the protective covenant or private restrictions, if any, to be included in the plat. A list of all owners with addresses of adjacent properties as they appear in the current records of the county auditor, including 911 addresses. Street cuts onto county or state roads. Source of title as shown by the most recent entry in the books of the county recorder. The floodplain boundaries, if applicable, include or indicating the classification of each floodplain area. The location, size, elevation, capacity, and other appropriate descriptions of all existing or proposed permanent and significant features, either natural or man-made, including but not limited to trees, water courses, falls, beaches, historic places, rock formations, streets, sewers, drains, water bodies, swamp, or other wetland, railroads, transmission towers, existing structures, county ditches, legal drains, water mains, culverts, utility lines, fire hydrants, drainage structures, and water elevations, including approximate high water and low water elevations of adjoining lakes, rivers, and streams at the date of the survey by reference to the USGS datum plane. The approximate size and capacity of utilities may be presented in a note on the plat. Okay. So with that being said, Kevin, if you want to come forward. And I guess you'll stand. And present your case, sir.
All right, it's been a few months, I think, since we've been here. So hopefully we got everything you guys just kind of want to see from us. We got the letters from the utilities stating that they would serve the area, drawings for the utilities, where they would be. We had redesigned this a little bit with the sinkhole portion that with the contours in order to make the lots fit and not get cut off by that. So you see a slight change in that, and then we got the great name of Eagle Drive on there. I think that checked off one of the boxes, and no, I don't know. I think there's anything else that was asked for specifically. I know the contours got added, kind of an overlay between the drainage study and the plat map and everything. So hopefully that answered a lot of the questions we had last time I was here, and kind of move forward. So.
Indianapolis Power and Light, what did they have to say with the power lines?
Mr. Meyer got a hold of them, put in their easement for them as stated. They went back. That took a good portion of 2 months of our time to get find the old easement. Couldn't find it, so they went ahead and put forth the new information
I have a question on your
Yep.
restriction and easements.
Okay.
Item number 5, no sign of any kinds of display the public to any lot except for sign of not more than 5 square feet, advertised property used by the builder to advertise the property during construction and sale thereof. On down the road, are you restricting people from having a real estate sign in their yard? Because it says that's kind of reserved for the builder.
Doesn't it talk in there other than real estate signs?
I think it did, I remember reading it.
No, it does not.
I thought it said something about other than the builder's sign or real estate signs, but,
It just says signs can be used by the builder to advertise the
right, no,
property.
it was not the intent to, I mean, that was just for kind of going off the restrictions and covenants of the divisions next to it. Businesses and stuff like that run out of those places to keep those signs out of your yard.
I understand that, but it's not what it says.
Right. Okay, and if we need to clean that language up a little, that's fine.
So how does that need to be addressed then, Bill?
He just needs to clean up the language.
So Kevin, did I read it correct when it says that no buildings shall be, like all buildings must be erected on site, so that means that none of like portable sheds or anything will be allowed to be brought in? Did I read that correctly?
Right, it'd be the homes themselves, or have to be,
That's what you're talking about, being erected on site, okay. Yeah, that was a little confused with that
you know,
one.
manufactured homes.
Okay.
Again, I mean, I wasn't very, I took a lot of those off of the ones from the divisions next to them, so.
So I'd be happy if you'd amend that to say builder or realtors.
Okay. That's no problem.
Make a note of that.
Yep.
I do have a question about the power lines, Kevin. So you can't build under those, correct?
Correct.
So the lot where the sinkhole is, where your lane goes back to the left, are you gonna be able to do anything with that lot at all? I mean, I don't see room in there for a house, is what I'm saying.
I mean, it doesn't look very favorable at this point, so it's, but if you look at the aerial drawing of that, then it's, it looks impossible, but when we go staking that out and spend that money to actually put the stakes there, it doesn't look very favorable, so that'll probably get sold with the lot next to it at some point. We're gonna focus the first phase, for not phase, but the first round for us is gonna be on those back lots, the top ones, and then start back up the road and work our way up there and see if we can't find somebody that wants to buy that, those two, that number 4 and 5 together. It's gonna take the right person that wants to do that, otherwise I'll be mowing 5 for quite a while. So,
That's what my next question was, could that potentially be a common ground?
yeah,
I'm thinking park would look good there.
Yeah, like a common
I
ground,
mean, it could be, but,
potentially.
I guess at this point, I don't have any plans for that, but I'm not saying that, I know that's something you guys would want to know today, probably if we was going to move on today. I don't have that plan today.
And then the lot 4, probably looking at a variance to get a house in there as well,
Yeah,
right?
lot 4 and lot 1 were the two that had slight changes on the setbacks in order to fit a house in. And there's plenty of room behind for the septic, and we just have to move those lots forward and put the septic back behind in lot 1. Falls in line with the septic, Rolling Meadows 2. It's back to back. We just kept those straight across so that they wouldn't be, I guess, obstructing each other's views and things like that. So it's, it'd be a slight variance getting closer to the counter to Mount Carmel itself.
And is it your intent to pave that lane?
Absolutely, yeah. That's the number one question we get asked.
You know my feeling on that. Living on a quarter mile of gravel, I think pavement's a must,
Yeah.
just for everybody's benefit.
That's, the neighbors, we've all had that discussion, and I mean, I've told them that's within the plans that, we wanted to have it done by now, but
Yeah.
at the same time, we're not gonna spend that money until we have it approved. So, it's more than likely gonna be next spring, but, that is definitely, I mean, that's, we put our name on it, so we want it to look good as well, so, yep. And we need to hurry because the pavement's going up every
Yeah,
day.
it's going, everything is going up every day. Suzanne, did we get any letters from any of the adjacent property owners? Well, let's just go through the steps here. So, was this in the paper at the proper time frame to get everyone notified 10 days? All right, was the property, marked for this petition?
Yes, there was a petition signed placed on the front.
Okay. And were all the adjacent property owners mailed a certified letter
Yes, sir.
stating the time of the meeting and what it was about?
Yes.
Okay. So, looks like I'm missing one. What's the other one, Jim?
Oh, just the applicant was notified in writing of the fact that they're
Okay. So, that happened. Okay. And no adjacent property owners sent back any letters or anything?
There was no letters.
Okay. All right. Okay. Got anything else, Kevin?
I think I'm good.
Anybody got any more questions before we open it up for public? Okay. All right, thank you, Kevin.
You bet.
All right, folks, I'll open it up for public comment on the proposed preliminary plat before we take it to a vote. Anybody want to speak on, what was it, Eagle Drive, is that what you said? Let's call it Rolling Meadows.
Phase 3.
Phase 3.
Meadows, yeah.
Rolling Meadows Phase 3? Yes, sir.
obviously, I came here
Okay, come on up.
for accommodations. I live in Pot, and you know where I live.
Yeah,
The concern is the water drainage that comes to me. Is that, are we taking care of that?
you're on the other side of the sinkhole, right?
Right.
That's in your backyard?
Yeah. And I see some runoff, I've seen some runoff, see there's no plastic fence that's stopping anything. There is now, but anything's been built. But there's not any on that road. I see some drainage coming there, it seems like it's all coming towards me. And I understand it's going to come to us, it's just natural, I just don't want all of it.
Right.
So is that being taken care of, who's gonna watch it all?
So Kevin, you wanna,
The question was about silt fence, is that correct? And
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as we move forward a little bit and we know that the road is approved where it sits and everything is as is, that's the next step for us, is to put the silt fence in and the retention ponds in and move forward with that.
So is there gonna be one pond, two ponds, then what happens? I mean,
There's two scheduled to go in there.
two,
Yep.
it's like a dam, like it goes to one, goes to the next one, slows it down.
Two different areas.
There.
Yeah, they'll slow
Where's
down.
that at?
a lot 8, lot 5 has one in it, correct?
Correct.
And one lot.
And that's the one-
Behind you, that's right behind you.
That's the biggest lot in the whole thing.
Yeah, that'll be, I mean.
How many lots are in for it? I mean, I'll be honest with you, there's 11.
11 total. So lot 5 is right behind you. There was one slated to go in there to do exactly what you're talking about, retain and slow down the water. Because I know you get flooding when we get one of those,
It disappears.
yeah. I'm assuming that last one a week ago probably got you a little bit, right? That one, not too bad?
The biggest one was when we had the decent rain.
Right.
We had 4 feet water.
And then- And then where's the other one at, Kevin?
11, and
Okay,
And honestly, I didn't even know that was there. Same was back in the water. To be honest with you, it was all out of the way, I wasn't present.
you mean on the property he owns?
But going forward, it's our picture, right?
So so Kevin, I got 2 things for you on that. When and if you start moving dirt on that lot, we need to get silt fences up for sure. And then if you could just go ahead and put that retention pond in there.
yeah,
Would that make,
I'm sorry.
I said if we get silt fencing put up between you and this property when he starts moving dirt there,
Yeah, I think it has to.
and then get the pond put in there at the same time.
I've seen nothing but just dirt run down through there.
So what we'll do there is, and I'll tell you just like I told the guys on the Hobbs property, let us know. I know Kevin.
I don't even know how to get hold of it.
Well, just deal through her and she'll get a hold of me.
Do I have a direct phone number?
It's 5017. Just call her
I
office.
mean, I think your name.
Yeah.
Direct way to contact. I want to move forward, I want it to be.
Right.
Yeah,
And I do too. I do
Kevin
too.
does too.
And I think at the end of the day, Kevin wants it done right, because it's just gonna be more grief on all of us if we don't,
Going
so.
forward, I think he's done some good things.
Yep.
I just wanted to continue, I just want to know.
So, you watch for those two things. If they don't happen, get a hold of Suzanne. I'll call Kevin myself and we'll get it taken care of.
I hope you understand.
Oh, I'm with you.
All right, appreciate it.
Yep. Anybody else on the Rolling Meadows Phase 3? Yeah.
I'm with Jason, I'm going to the east. I've lived on Mount Carmel probably 49 years. And, I've seen the growth and different things. But I believe Kevin's done a good job on the houses he's built so far. And he continues to work with people and you know, build some nice houses. Look good.
Well, like I've said in these seats many times, if we could all be good neighbors, it goes a long way. If you start making people around you mad, it's a miserable time, so, well, with that, thank you. That being said, anybody else on Phase 3 of Rolling Meadows? Okay. Seeing no other, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Motion to accept by Donna,
I'll second.
seconded by Mr. Swafford. Everyone in favor, raise a hand. 7-0.
Can't see me.
Congratulations, Kevin. Do stay on top of the silt fence and the retention pond, if you would, please. Because if my phone don't ring, then I'm a happy camper. Yes.
But at this time, you've approved that you need to make a formal motion that you found legitimate values of fact on what you read.
Okay.
And then if you are going to impose any additional conditions, those must be in writing with your findings of fact also.
Okay. All right, so let's just go through them. Name of the subdivision, it's on the plat. Name and address of the owner, subdivision, county planner, land planner, consultant, engineer, and surveyor. That information is all included here. Track boundaries, lines, dimensions, bearings, angles, and reference to section, township, and range lines are all on the plat. Lot layouts on there showing dimensions and numbers. Parcels to be dedicated or reserved for school, parks, playgrounds, and other public community purposes. That's not on here yet, but it sounds like it may be a potential at some point. Building setback lines are on. He will have to come back before the BZA for a couple of variances, correct?
No.
On the two lots that he needs a variance on.
No, you have actually, that's under Title 12, so you have the decision if you want to grant those. You can't grant anything outside of Title 12. But the variances are under 12-32, so that's within your authority today if you're going to grant any variances on that, and those also have to be in writing. As the commission is well known, your right of way is 75 feet, and the side and rear lots are 25 feet. So if you're going to grant any of those, it would be, have to be by majority vote, has to be in writing, and that's within your authority as the planning commission.
Okay, while we're on that subject, so an amendment to our original vote, we have a variance request for Lot 1 and Lot 5, correct? Lot 4, I'm sorry, Lot 4. So I would entertain a motion to amend the original motion to include those two variances.
I'll make a motion to amend it.
Donna made the motion, Robin Cooper second.
That was for a setback.
For the setback, yes, we have a 25-footer variance on the lot 1.
25 on the back, 75 on the front.
Correct, and then same thing on lot 4. And that's just to make it even possible to build there.
Yeah.
So we have a motion that's been made and seconded. All in favor of granting those 2 variances?
So,
All right, 7-0. Streets and right-of-ways in the adjoining and/or adjoining the subdivision by name, which approximate graded type, that's all on the plat. Location, width, and purpose of the easement is on the plat. Location, approximate size and capacity of the utilities. We did receive letters from REMC, gas company. There is no water company, or did we get one from water?
Yeah.
BP, okay. We got one from the water. There'll be septic tanks out there, all stating that they were able to handle the extra load. Location, contours at vertical intervals, that was added to the plat after we asked for it. Legend and notes are on there. Other features significantly affecting the subdivision, such as the power lines. Scale, north point, and date is on. Phases, if any, and there is none on this particular subdivision. Drainage plan prepared and certified. That is not on this one, but I do have it's in the file, right? Which is why we know there's 2 retention ponds going in there. Location, owner, zoning, use of the adjacent properties, including location, size, and use of all buildings within 50 feet. Description of protected covenant. Now, the amendment on that,
was on the sign.
do we need to put that to a vote, Jim, the change to the sign on the covenant?
Yes, if there's a discrepancy about what's permitted, or if you made any amendment, it has to be in writing and get changed.
So amendment number 2,
Could we not handle that in the final approval, this preliminary?
You can do either one, but what I'm saying is there can be no material difference between your preliminary and final, so it's purely up to the discretion of the planning commission. If you want to wait to the final, then you would have to be determined that that's not a material difference between the preliminary and final plat.
okay, you want us to take care of it in the final?
Difference, but I think he'll correct that by the final.
Yeah, okay.
I'm good with that.
I'll just make a note of that in here. That will be corrected by the final plat. Clean up the wording. Bear with me just a second.
You got a bunch of people that came and sign in.
Okay. And then, so no of the outbuildings of, okay.
Yeah.
So Kevin, on 22, all buildings must be built on site. That means no one can roll a storage building in?
That wasn't the intent, if you don't say that, but.
So, yeah, let's address that one, because if somebody wants to haul a good one, and I think we need to get that one too. List of owners with addresses adjacent property, we've already verified that that's happened and that those have all been sent the certified letter. Street cuts onto county and state roads, which is just a county road in this case. Source of title shown, and we have that in our paperwork. The flood boundaries, if applicable, including classification of each floodplain. I don't know that we had a floodplain necessarily. We do have retention ponds to take care of some surface water. And then location, size, elevation, capacity, and other appropriate description of all existing proposed permanent and significant features such as the road, the water courses which have been studied, and that's why the retention ponds are going in. Falls, breaches, historic places, no historic places that I've been notified of on this plat. Railroads, wetlands don't apply. County ditches would only be the one along Mount Carmel itself. Water mains, culverts, there is a culvert I've seen it. Me and Gary went out there and looked at it actually, so that's been taken care of. Utility lines, fire hydrants, adjoining lakes, rivers, streams, they did the survey, approximate size and capacity of the utilities. So, unless anyone sees anything other than the amendments we've made, I think we've addressed all these situations, and we will do it in writing.
And it's one final point. It's kind of hard, it is a little bit hard to hear. It sounded like there was some discussion as far as a retention pond being built first or a fence. If you're imposing those conditions, those also have to be approved in writing. If you are doing that.
Okay, so we will need to get in writing that I said the silt fence will need to be up if he starts moving dirt on that lot, and that right after the silt fence goes up, that the retention pond will need to go in place on that lot or the back lot as soon as they start any kind of construction on those two lots. Is that understood, Kevin? Okay. And then then any of the other lots you start working on, if you'll just do that to protect everybody down water from you, or down the hill from you, then I think that'll go a long way towards making everyone get along. Okay, so we'll put that in the findings as well. Anything else, Jim? We good?
And after you approve it, you're the signature on it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Get back to my agenda. So when you got that done, just let me know. I'll swing by and we'll sign it, get it to Kevin. And we've got, how long do you get it to him? 10 days? You get the findings to Kevin?
Yes, did you take your vote that you failed the findings of fact?
Okay. All right. Okay, so, hearing all that, if everyone is satisfied with that we've met these, I would entertain a motion to approve the preliminary plat. Second. So moved by Joe Purcell, seconded by Mike Swafford. All in favor, show of hand. 7-0. All right. Now, congratulations, Kevin. Sorry about that. Sure. We'll make sure we cross the T's and dot the I's. All right. Number 5, old business. Scott Bergen, on the update on the comprehensive plan. Before we start with Scott, a couple of things, and I said this, there's some people here that were in the steering committee meeting last week. Keep in mind, there's also another meeting next week on the 25th at the Owen Valley High School. So no vote will be taken on this tonight, and no vote will be taken next week. These meetings tonight are for him to bring back the proposal and any changes that have occurred since the last meeting. And there's been several, because people that weren't in the steering committee meetings early on came to the meeting last week and voiced, and he's heard what they're saying, and he's gonna make changes, correct?
Correct.
All right. So, with that being said, I would like the council, or the commission here, to hear his presentation. He's got 4 points he wants to make, right?
Correct.
What I can do, if we conduct ourselves properly, is after each presentation, there'll be a time to speak right after. Let's keep it straight and to the point, so we're not all here all night. And if you could, if it's already been spoke about, there's no need in bringing it up again unless it's specific to you or what you're trying to speak on. So, like the retention pond, I don't need to hear it 4 times that there's no retention pond there. I know after the first time. So if we can do that, then we can move forward. We'll have a presentation. We'll stop after that. We'll have public input on that piece of it. Then he'll give us the next one and we'll go through this. But I need the commission to hear his presentation for sure, because they haven't heard the whole thing yet. We kind of got derailed last time. So with that being said, Scott?
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to give a brief update on the process, and then we're going to talk about the changes that we're proposing since the last time. So the planning process timeline is on right now. Oprah is currently reviewing the same draft that you are. That's required by them. They will either approve the plan or seek the changes. I can tell you that from my past experience, they won't get involved in what decisions you make about land use. They look at sort of statute things and federal requirements. So we anticipate some comments from them, but it won't change your opinion. They don't meddle in what the local planning commission wants to do.
Can I ask you a question? Sorry. So you said that the changes that were proposed last week, I know they haven't been made to the overall document yet because keeping it straight on what's been changed and shifting pages and stuff. Have they seen those changes yet?
They haven't, but they will. And again, my experience, I did about 10 or 12 of these. Oprah doesn't mess in what's this category called or what's this called. They say, do you have input? Do you have the stats? They look at those things and not what local decisions you make. They'll have some changes, but it won't be of the kind of things we're talking about tonight. If changes are required, they'll resubmit, and that's when they'll see the new changes. Once the plan is approved, then it opens up to the public hearing. Again, this is a public meeting. The public hearing is the formally announced one. Right now, the contract that you are under with Oprah is aimed for this to be done by November 10th, but there is some wiggle room in that. However, if you go beyond December 10th and have it closed out, that will require an extension of the contract with Oprah. It's possible, but it's complicated. You have to ask the extension. They don't give you a whole lot more time. You have to tell them exactly when you want. So, long and short of it is, we're aiming to get this done by December, but if it doesn't, for whatever reason it doesn't, you still have some wiggle room. Okay, since the previous meeting, it's been a busy week, a busy month. We scheduled a public meeting for Thursday, October 25th, come one, come all, at Owen Valley High School, where we'll be discussing again the things we talked about today and taking more input. We sent a county-wide postcard out. We know they've gone out there because we started to hear back from people. It invited people to look at it online, and we set some hard copies up at the library and the Purdue Extension. There's a little snag there, but now those hard copies are there, so people can go and look at it in person, or they can look at it online. We updated the website, the notice of public hearing, and last week, as you mentioned, Commissioner, we had a committee meeting with new members. I think maybe we've got six or seven new members from the agricultural committee, and they all sat in, and we invited the public to last week's meeting too, and they also had a say. So, since a month ago, these are the activities we've done. Here's what we want to do tonight. First off, we want to talk about our recommendation. We are suggesting we remove the rural preservation category from the land use plan. We are doing that based on the comments we've heard. Then we will pause. Rachel's going to talk about that and talk about it. Then we hope to move on and talk about some other additions. Again, we've heard back how to narrow some of the subdivision things, remove some individual properties, but again, pretty much reacting directly from what we've heard. Then actually can go down two more, Suzanne. We're going to skip to and go to talk about the mid-state quarter third, because there's a lot of interest in that, and then we'll finish with some talk about the modular homes. Does that sound good? Yep. Okay, Rachel.
All right. When were those postcards mailed out? August 5th. August 5th? Yes. Thank you.
Will they mail out to all property owners or
Whose mailing list did we use?
We use the Arts has a countywide list. They use the same county officials use everybody uses it.
I don't think we have their own property.
Just real quick, informally, a show of hands, how many people got the postcard?
I did, I probably left mine here.
And it was, Marcy, so I'm a little louder than you, so we used a county list tax roll or what?
There's two lists.
Okay.
There's one for landowners, and then there's one for residents. If we had just used the landowner ones, we would have missed anyone who was renting in Owen County. So we had to choose one or the other. So we chose the resident address, not the tax landowner, to try to achieve more people in the mailing.
That explains why you didn't get one then. You own property here but don't live here, correct? So we use a resident list to mail those out. Okay,
I didn't get one either.
you didn't get one?
I don't.
I would miss you.
Wouldn't you think that the people with invested interest in money in those properties should maybe take a priority over someone just renting and has to live here from Wilmington to live here for a while?
Huh? I don't know. Why did we not use both? Because of cost or what?
There was no way for me to compile both together without overlapping. And then the cost, I mean, as it was, there was not money in the budget for the mailing, so we had to find money in the budget for that mailing. And we felt that we would cover more. It's the exact same list that is used by the entire school system to reach out to all of the students and the parents within the county. So again, trying to hit the residents, that was the list that had more people on it.
Okay.
Just as a sidebar,
Yes.
maybe this would put things into perspective a little bit. Counties all over the state of Indiana develop comprehensive plans, and this is by far going above and beyond. It's not a legal requirement to notify every property owner because property owners are within the county. When this goes to a public hearing, it will be legally advertised according to the Indiana code as to what the state requires for a comprehensive plan to be advertised for. So I would say your county's doing a great job of going above and beyond, trying to make sure that people are informed. It may not be a perfect process, but it is a much better process than other counties are doing.
Well, and I hear what you're saying, but
Yes,
I want to hear from as many as we can. If we get the gym filled up next week, I'll be happy, because I can't know what there's on their mind if I haven't spoke to them, if I haven't had that conversation, if I haven't heard what they got to say. Now, obviously, at their last meeting, we got a lot of good information that we didn't have before that's helping to drive this document, and that's what we need, because it's for all of us. We're all going to have it for the next at least 10 years. So, I'll be rather old then, but I'll probably still be around, I hope anyway. And we're going to live under this, so we want to make sure it covers all the bases that we possibly can with an eye toward the actual teeth side of it. The ordinance is also being updated so that they are more functional and easier to deal with. That's what I'm after, and I'm sure that's what most of us up here are after. And I think at the end of the day, that's what everybody out here is after too. We're just wanting to make sure that we've done the best we can do and gotten the widest reach we can get of the residents of Owen County, because it's for Owen County. It's their document, and we want to get them in it. So, yeah, go ahead.
okay, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Rachel Christensen. I'm a planner with HWC Engineering. We've partnered with Scott to help develop this plan with your county and your planning commission. We have been listening a lot and hearing what the public has to say about some of the parts and pieces that maybe weren't working the first time around, which is excellent, because like Norm was saying, this is a plan for your county, and you guys are the experts in your county. I am not your county expert whatsoever. I live in a small town northeast of Indianapolis, and one of my town's priorities is making sure that any growth or development that happens, that our town is protected. And I think that is what everyone is here to do tonight, is protect the parts and pieces that are important to you about Owen County. Not what I think is important for Owen County, it's about what you think is important about Owen County. And so my job as a planner is to hear those things, and then I can make recommendations on the best ways to get where you guys want to go. So comprehensive plan is giving that overall vision of what your community wants. My job is how to help you get there. So I want you guys to maybe accept me as part of your team, your Owen County team. And what we're doing tonight is, hearing what the Planning Commission feedback is going to be on this, and then that public comment at the end. Like we've said, we're gonna have some talking points. I'll present what we did and what needed to be changed, and then if there's more discussion beyond that, we can kind of talk on those 4 points that we had listed. So the first topic that we're gonna look at is the future land use map. So I'm gonna give you a little bit of background, and how about we do this too? If you are part of the steering committee that's worked with us on this, could you raise your hand? Excellent. So these members of the steering committee, we've sat through some lengthy meetings already, and last week's meeting was a very long one, and I think we made a lot of progress during it. So I really appreciate that steering committee being there and sticking through us for a very long meeting. So we're gonna go over, it's gonna be a little repeat for them, but it'll be good to catch the rest of the group up on what's been done. This map that's up on the screen right now, this is your existing land use map for Owen County. This was adopted back in 2010. So when your planning commission is making decisions, they should be referencing this map to see what everyone voted in as the game plan back then. It's good to update comprehensive plans every 10 years or so. If you're in a community that is rapidly growing, it's better to do it more often. I'm working with a community right now that did it 5 years ago, and they just updated it again because they've had so much change in their community, and they want to make sure, again, that those things that are important for them to protect are still being protected. So as you can see on this map, this color is all ag, and that's a future land use classification. This area down here was rural residential. There are green areas that were DNR managed lands, and then there are areas around the managed lands that were called rural preservation. There's also some residential zoning districts that are kind of around the Spencer area. And like I said, this is when someone applies for a rezone in your county, your plan commission will be looking at this map and they would say, okay, does this line up with what our vision is for our county? And if it doesn't line up, if someone comes in and says, I want to do an industrial site with lots of structures and buildings and we want to produce cheese, and we want to put it right here. Your plan commission is going to say, no, this isn't what our county wants. We want your cheese factory to be, let's see, in the industrial areas. And so that kind of directs that growth or that development in areas that you guys collectively decide as important areas or areas that are appropriate for that type of development. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So this was our map that we failed at. So in our in our steering committee meetings, we had talked about, I think the hot topic has been this rural preservation district. And what we learned from our steering committee was that the word preservation is kind of a naughty word or a bad word, and we don't want to be using it as we move forward. So we kind of picked that apart at our last steering committee meeting. And what we talked about was that maybe that rural preservation piece isn't really what you guys envision for your future. And that's okay, and that's why we're doing this process, is to hear that. So what we've done is, so this was our first draft, the draft that I would say not everyone is very happy with. So what we've done now is we've gone back for another round of back drafting. You can flip to the next one, and we've revised it. Not to say that we're at our ending point yet either. This is definitely open for discussion. So I'm going to report to you what we've kind of talked about, and then, of course, the planning commission, if there are feedback and questions, then let's talk about those things. So we are proposing to remove the rural preservation district and putting it all as ag. Now we've had some questions about, what does that really mean? So most communities or most counties, and not to say that it has to be this for Owen County, but just as a standard, a lot of counties typically have 3 different agricultural zoning districts. There's land use classifications. So the first land use classification is usually a high intensity agriculture zone or land use classification. That includes areas that are appropriate for like CAFOs, your high intensity ag uses. The second one, a CAFO is a confined animal feeding operation. Thank you. So some communities designate areas that those types of uses are appropriate for them. The way that we have this drawn now, we are saying that CAFOs could potentially be appropriate in all areas. Right now, the way your ordinance is written is that if someone wants to do a CAFO, they have to come to you and ask special permission to have that, and you can put special conditions on it. So you have some protection wrapped into that. The second category is your general agriculture. So, you know, the general uses that you typically think about ag that are not the high intensity of a CAFO. And then the third one is a rural residential district. So that is more of like your hobby farms can belong in that classification. You know, you can have your residences there with, you know, more acreage than you would in a subdivision. So what is being proposed right now for you guys is the general ag classification and then that rural residential classification. I'm gonna stop there. Oh, one more thing. So one question that I posed in the last steering committee meeting when we talked about removing that rural preservation district is, you know, forestry is a huge component of your county. So we asked the steering committee, you know, by taking away that rural preservation, the rural preservation district, even if we call it a different name, what if we call it like a forestry district? Is that important to Owen County? Is preserving those wooded areas for timber production? And at the steering committee, it seemed like that was not an important thing, that it was more important for property owners to have the rights to do what they want with their land. So if you own a wooded lot and you decide, I want this to be a cornfield instead, then you do have that right to go through and cut your trees down and then put your cornfields in. So I just want to say that was asked. We posed the question, and that's the direction that the steering committee guided us to head. You know, we've had some public input along the way that, you know, might be a different opinion, but that's where we landed.
Did we get the Harkrider farm cleaned up and moved off of Red?
Is that the one north of Spencer?
It's the one
Yes,
west of Texas Pike.
it's what we talked about.
I've got a glare, so I can't tell if they got it or not. I see a red dot up there, but
It's a very, very smaller red.
It's
But-
yeah.
yeah, that's the Cook property, but it looks like they got it off of yours, which is what I'm asking.
We're gonna get to that, but yes.
All
we'll
right,
get to
all right.
that.
So let me ask you this,
Sure.
and I don't know if you've seen this letter, right? So how does this fit into the current classifications as far as ag? The wood working forest classification,
We do not have one on there right now.
okay? But with our current setup, our current designation, is this a possibility for the property owner as well, where they could harvest if need be?
The way this map is shown, yes.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. I don't want this to be taken away because we did all of it that way. But as long as it's all available, I mean, just speaking out loud here. All right.
This is not saying that, because my specific question was, you know, are you guys okay if someone wanted to clear cut a forested site? And I know that sounds very harsh, and, you know, but if it was for an ag purpose, that was acceptable to the steering committee.
But if it isn't for an ag, what if we just want to put that?
Then someone could clear cut it.
Are we at the point where we can take questions on
Did you
the?
have a definition, did you have a definition of protection?
We have a new ag description. So I would say, let's talk about this piece first, about the forestry
Okay.
item, and then we can talk about let's go ahead, let's flip forward and we'll talk about
If we've got a description of what that says, maybe that's better, and then we'll take the question.
So this is your existing agricultural land use classification description. I'm gonna go ahead and read it out loud because I know this is far away for some of you. But the existing description for the 2010 plan is, this district is intended for rural areas where, due to topography, crop production is mixed with residences. Infrastructure is currently limited and water/sewer are not planned to be provided in this area. Emphasis is on agriculture, but with smaller lot sizes allowed in areas that are not suitable for agriculture. Residential subdivisions are discouraged. Confined animal feeding operations would be a special use. So what we are proposing, we've revised this description. If you can flip to the next one. The proposed description for the agricultural district is to preserve, protect, and support the rural, unique landscape areas of Owen County. Areas with this classification are suitable for agriculture, can be used for agriculture activities, and support family farms and the continuation of such. This district does not restrict landowners from farming crops, raising livestock, or from timber production / harvesting activities. This classification supports larger lots, discourages subdivisions, and encourages existing agricultural land uses to continue. Areas that have this classification may also include floodplain areas around rivers or other bodies of waters, distinct topographical areas, or wooded areas. Connections to utilities such as water and sewer may not be feasible in this district.
Ready for some questions?
We're ready for some questions.
All right, folks, hearing that section of it, does anyone want to ask a question or speak on that piece?
Maybe we could start with a steering committee member, said if we captured some of their thoughts, and maybe they could get it rolling.
If you were on the steering committee meeting the other night and you'd like to speak on why we ended up here, feel free.
Well, and I'm happy with this, and everybody knows, apparently, if you were last meeting, I'm going to look out about the whole rural preservation. So I think the big thing is they did talk about timber and saving timber. The rural preservation versus agriculture, we started to see that there wasn't much difference between the two of them. And to separate them out would just cause more confusion, additional zoning and ordinances that would honestly just make it harder for everybody else. So it's not so much that we're not trying to save the trees, we're just trying to not implement additional laws and rules on people with their existing property.
I would have to add to that, that during that discussion, we also brought up that the topography, much of the county has rather rough topography, and we believe that will in itself protect the tree production in this county. So there wasn't so much concern about losing the aesthetics of the forested area in the county.
And both prevent or limit the use of subdivisions. And not typically when someone's going to clear cut something, it's for a subdivision or it's because they're turning, something that's overgrown back into a hay field or a crop field. So we felt pretty confident in combining it all back into agriculture.
You're fine. You see it.
Yeah, one thing that I think is important to remember is that this is a plan.
Right.
And this is not a written contract.
This is what now?
It's not a written contract.
Correct, yes.
And so because it's not a contract, and it's just a written plan, then later on, a few months from now or whatever, if they decide to change the colors from purple and blue and brown and red and restructure everything, it's possible they can do that once they have the authority to do that. So people should not believe this, I don't believe it should be, this is cast in stone, and this is exactly the way it's going to be, because in the future, it can be changed. So this is not a contract, it's just a plan.
So this is a guidance document, and there's a difference between your comprehensive plan, which is the guiding document, and then your county ordinances, which those are the teeth, and those are the enforceable ones. So like I said, if someone wanted to, develop a subdivision and their lot was zoned agriculture, they have to go to your plan commission first and ask for that rezone to take place. Your plan commission has, I think, 5 elements that they have to look at to see if it follows the comprehensive plan. That's one of them. So that's where they will look at this map and they'll determine whether or not the comprehensive plan would support the rezone petition. So they'll make their findings of that, very similar to what you guys did earlier tonight with that primary lot, but it would be for the rezone. Once they have their decision made, they'll make a recommendation to your county commissioners. And your county commissioners have the final say if that rezone happens or not. Now, the county commissioners have a different set of rules that they will be making their decision on, and they can make their decision based on anything. which is kind of interesting. You know, your plan commission is your technical board who's gonna give you a technical review and say, you know, these are the things that, are relevant to the site and why you should, from a planning perspective, either approve this or deny this. When it gets to your county commissioners, then they should be taking that recommendation, very seriously. However, I have seen planning commissions that say, the sky is too blue today, so we're gonna deny this. Or, it's a beautiful day, we're gonna approve it. Which I think is kind of one of those interesting local things. So that's kind of that process. So again, like you stated, this is not a binding document that provides guidance.
But it's true, but these colors, changing the comp plan will require another formal process. I want to be clear about that. We can, if you want to change these, if you approve this as it's done, and then you want to change the comp plan, you have to go through a similar amended process. So it's not accurate to say that you can then just take a crayon and change these colors in it. You have to go through, and you know, counties do, but you would have to go through a similar process.
Right, and it would be very similar to what I just said about the rezone, where, you know, if the plan commission decided they wanted to update their future land use map, you know, they would go through the process and have to amend the comprehensive plan, which would require public advertisement so that all of you people can come back in and say, no, this is not what we want, or yeah, this totally makes sense, let's do it. And then they take that comp plan, that recommendation, just the process we are gonna go through in a few months, they'll recommend that the comp plan is either approved or not. And then the county commissioners have the final say in if that is actually approved or not. Okay, so just to be clear, say that the planning commission decided you guys want to do an amendment on this. You guys would have to notify the public of an amendment possibility.
If I understand correctly, once it was approved, this map was quote unquote set in stone. We can't do anything with it unless we go through this process again. Once we've well, somebody, yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be, you know, Scott and his group, it could be anybody, but this whole process, which is we're now a little bit over a year into, would have to start over to change it once it's approved by the commissioners, correct? Okay. So that's why.
The planning commission, like, hey, you know, today I want to do a subdivision here and you guys can.
Well, I mean.
You actually have to get outside help.
To redo this, yes,
Okay.
yes. Now, like she said, if somebody comes to the commission and says, I want to build a subdivision, we're going to look at this and see if that was even our goal to have it where they're wanting to build it, wherever that may be. And then we also would look at, you know, and I'm speaking for myself, is the infrastructure there to support it? You know, do all the agencies, police, fire, water, gas, do all those people agree that that would be a place that they could sustain or add to their load? All that comes into play. So, I mean, but this is a guiding document, just like you said. This is what we would look at first, because keep this in mind, if we want to say no, we also have to have reasons why we said no, or we get sued. So this is step one. We can say, nope, that's agriculture, we're done here, and then we can move on.
Just like Mr. Cooper that was up here earlier presented this, I assumed that property was in agriculture
Yes.
to begin with. And I feel like, I feel confident with what he's doing, you know, all of his direct neighbors were informed, he presented a good plan, people had the opportunity to speak up on it. I feel confident that you guys and whoever is applying for that variance would inform the correct people so that we would all have an opinion in that.
Right. Well, and there's a legal standard we have to meet, and I went through it at the beginning of that, where we notified the adjacent property owners, we posted a petition on the site, you know, all those are, by statute, we have to follow that set of rules. So even if, you know, we come back a year from now and somebody says, hey, I want to come down here next to Freedom and that agriculture, rezone that to commercial and build a business there. They still have to come, go through this process that you just seen happen tonight, and get the approval of the planning commission. And who knows who'll be sitting there 10 years from now, 5 years from now in these chairs. But this is this is something to help them make decisions, even though it's not legally binding.
And to protect.
And to protect the property owners, right?
Want for your county.
Anyone else on this subject? Okay, that's,
Oh, you got one more?
got one?
Yeah, I would like to kind of clarify something.
Okay.
Clear cuts, although they look ugly,
Yeah,
they're one of the most important silvicultural tools we have in forestry to regenerate woods back into proper management. And so when you see a clear cut, it's not for, a lot of times it's not for, I want to strip it off and make a corner. That happens very seldom anymore. Most of the time, if it's done by a professional, it's done to actually increase the value of the, not the financial value, but the regeneration value of the forest. And so, I just want to make that clear. Clear cutting is not a bad tool. Forestry is agriculture. It's classified as agriculture. So that needs to be made clear. I do have a question for you. Once the plan goes in place, will the state law allow you to back restrictions off by changing the plan? Can you change the plan in the future and make it less restrictive?
And I would say we're in the process of doing that right now. So, with that existing future land use map that I showed you, and we had, that designated rural preservation area, we are kind of pulling it back and saying, no, we're just gonna do that instead. So, yes. But it would have to go through the process, this process that we're going through.
yes, ma'am. Oh, sorry.
Back on the description that you had on the land use, at the very end,
You go back.
the last sentence,
There you go.
you had that. When it says,
Connections to utilities such as water and sewer may not be feasible in this district.
may not, so that means you could if it was.
And that's gonna depend on where your utilities are located in your county and what the county's plans are for, if it is a county utility, how that is getting extended. So there may be areas that are close to Spencer that are, designated as ag, but there might be a utility hookup nearby that if the property owner wanted to extend that utility, they likely could pay to have it extended and then to the property. However, we wanted to make sure that we were being clear as planners and a planning commission and the steering committee that that's not the intent, and, those utilities, we're not encouraging them to get extended so that people can hook up and do subdivisions and that sort of thing. Yes?
Could the planning commission use the parent law to make people, cap off their wells and fill up their septic systems and hook up to existing water lines from the city and sewer systems? Using the parent law.
I am not familiar with the Barrett law. However, I was a municipal planner for many years. I was an interim planning director, and we had a water utility and an electric utility, as well as we were in a sewer district. I don't know if this is for all water companies, but our water company did not require you to hook up if you didn't want to hook up. However, we really hesitated on extending to existing subdivisions then, because we needed to have people hook up to make it feasible for us to run lines through existing subdivisions. So that was an issue that we would run into. I know the sewer district that was in my area, I think at times they did require people to connect because they were running sewer. But, that's a utility issue, and it may not be your plan commission's jurisdiction to make that decision. Anything else? Yes.
As far as a property owner that has a lot of acreage, that dealt with, when people want to split their property, you go in and you go to the planning commission, they tell you how to do it, when to do it, yeah, a lot of times they don't let you do it. They tell you how much, they tell you how large, they tell you you can't build a house there. What kind of guidelines are they, where are we going with this? Are we gonna run, are the property owners gonna have 40 acres and want to split 5 off for a son and a daughter-in-law? And they go in and they can't. They're gonna be told, I'm sorry, you're not gonna have sewage, you're not gonna be able to put electricity there. No, you can't have 5 acres, you can have 20. But they wanna sell that.
So the next piece of this planning process, so this is the comprehensive plan, which again is this guiding document. And this document doesn't get into the nitty-gritty details that you're asking about necessarily, but that is the next step that will be coming. Again, I've been a planner for many, many years. I have a lot more experience on the the local government side than I do on the consulting side. But from my experience, where was I going with this? The ordinances are the ones that have the teeth to it. And your ordinances, when I did a review of them, they make me nervous for you guys. They are not very comprehensive right now. The definitions are not very clear. I think I would have it would be difficult for me as a planning director to go in and really understand what the intent of that ordinance is. So I'm really glad that you guys are working on this as your second step. Those details will get talked about in that UDO, it's called a Unified Development Ordinance Update. There is a wonderful partner that we have on board with this. Her name is KK Gerhard Fritz, and she's been hired, and she works with communities all over the state of Indiana, especially rural communities like yours, to talk about those details and what things are important to you guys as Owen County property owners for your children and for future generations. So those are the types of things that will come in the next step after the comprehensive plan is adopted.
Is any of the past grandfather, is anything in the past grandfather that they've had it to pass on, will it stay the way it was? Or are they gonna just be told these are the new rules?
If it is anything new that someone is trying to do, it will have to go by the new rules. So if they're making a change, so if you have an agriculture property, you've been doing agriculture for 300 years, you're gonna stay ag, you can still continue that use. However, if you decide that you want to do a subdivision, that's something new that will then have to go by the new rules.
Well, it's not necessarily this subdivision. 150 acres, and you want to split it off 4 ways, just make, what kind of problem? What kind of problems we're gonna run into that when they want to split that and you're told, sorry, you know?
And things like that happen.
Yes, they do.
And so that is where my advice to you is to make sure that you're involved in the ordinance update. Because that's a discussion for that piece of the planning process. And that's where, you know, when we look at these land use classifications, we want to make sure that we're kind of setting it up so that when you guys do ordinance update, that they mesh and they're cohesive. So, you know, if we have that future land use map up there and it's a rural area, you know, we want to make sure that we are looking at what is appropriate, how many times can someone subdivide versus, and when does it kick it over into being a subdivision? Because I think overall, our vision that we're talking about tonight is that we do want to have a lot of rural agricultural areas and not a lot of subdivisions. So we have to think of where that line is.
I agree on that. I know that investors buy a property to subdivide, and they got to go through a lot of hoops with you guys, I know that. It's the farmer that is no longer about family that's going to continue on, and they need to sell off 40 acres out of 300 to get by. And that person wanting 40 acres wants to put a house on the 40 acres. They don't want a subdivision, they just want 40 acres and a home. I would hate to see that they will not be able to do that.
And yes, so be passionate and come to those meetings, please.
It's not our intent to do that. In fact, our intent's the opposite. You know, ideally, they would peel off a couple acres, however, and the grandson goes on. Our intent is to, you know, is to do that, but to actually codify that as we capture the ordinance.
Because you're saying right now that it doesn't necessarily work that way. So if that is what the planning commission needs to consider for the ordinances, then that's where your voice needs to speak up in that process.
It puts a seller in a very bad position when they need to sell with the restrictions. And it depends, I know what you're doing, I see and I understand. You know, I don't want to see Spencer be Indianapolis either. But let's face it, there's a lot of farmers and they do sell. And they just, you know, you try to tell them you can't, they don't go well.
Under the current rules that we have, every parcel can be split up to 3 times as an administrative split parcel. Probably if you had 250 acres, the odds are it's in multiple parcels.
Yes.
So under the current thing, it's if you make that 4th split off that parcel, then you have to go through a subdivision ordinance. That's the current rule.
Yes, we do.
I'd like to see you also make a provision like for mother-in-law quarters, you know, like where somebody's lost, a woman's lost her husband. She needs to move in close to her daughter or her son for their help. I'd really like to see a mother-in-law clause in there of some type that would be helpful. And, can I make a suggestion on your verbiage and on the new comprehensive plan?
On this?
You've got all the verbiage.
Okay.
There's groups out there that, will go through and look at all of the verbiage of the comprehensive plan and give you an opinion of how it affects civil and personal rights. One, for instance, is American Policy Center. They will take a comprehensive plan, read it, and tell you how that's going to affect long-term the personal rights of individual rights, personal property rights of individuals in the town. I used to know the head of the American Policy Center years ago. I reached out to them a little bit to see if they would still be willing to do that. He's supposed to get back with me. And they do that all over the country. They look at comprehensive plans and give the legalities of what the future is, where the loopholes are where people can sue. Right now, there's a loophole in Putnam County. There's a lawsuit up there. I couldn't talk about it the last time I was here. I was a witness. I was subpoenaed. I couldn't talk about it. But a neighbor up there used a loophole in the law, and he sued his neighbor. They found a friendly judge. The neighbor has been allowed to decide what this man has on his property. So far, a judge has zoned agriculture. So far, this is public knowledge. William Morrison is the one being sued. I can say that now publicly. So far, this judge, it's got to all get appealed. So far, this judge has said, even though the county commissioners have said this man's property is, there's no problems, it's all under, he's legal. Doesn't matter to the judge. The judge is making remove tractors, dozers, equipment. William Morrison did have a lot of junk on his property. He had piles of firewood he never cut out. He had piles of lumber he intended to use and never did. I've told him myself, you need to clean yourself, your place up. Not my cup of tea. But the judges, because of loopholes that was written, the judge found wiggle room to make William would have one tractor here for parts, and have an identical tractor that he used all the time. They wanted not only the junk tractor for parts gone, but they wanted his good tractor gone. The latest thing I was supposed to go to court with this last week, and I didn't have to testify, I was on tail end of code, was now the guy filed a petition with the court to be able to go through William's personal locked barns. The court allowed that to happen about 3 weeks ago. Now, he's petitioned that he found things in William's barn that is junk that needs to be done away with. He's asked a petition from the court for him to be able to go through and remove whatever. And this is public record. Don't just take it for granted. You can go and call any Fred Mann or the Man Boys or Kurt Cummings up there, any of the big farmers, they were there too. Now the judge is considering and going to make a decision in 3 weeks whether he's going to allow this neighbor to decide what William can have inside his locked barns. Yep. I couldn't talk about it the last time I was here because of loopholes. So I'm going to tell the county, you really need somebody professional to take them out of the loop. When they get done, you need to find somebody professional that does this, that can take a look at it and say, and tell you where civil liberty is being endangered. And right now, in 3 weeks, the judge is going to decide on whether it's bankrupt or not. It's not fair, people shake their heads, but it's public record, folks. You can just go over there and ask the question, and guess what? The judge said it doesn't matter if the county commissioners came in there and said the man is within within a regular, he's okay to not work the farm. Didn't matter to the judge. He threw the commissioner's opinion away. And that's how this works.
And I think that's really important to make sure that we are updating the ordinances ordinances so that your county is protected in your land.
I agree. That's the reason I think you guys are trying to do a good job, okay? But it would not hurt to look outside of what the loop you're in, whether, whoever you use. But it would not hurt to look outside the loop, to have somebody look at the web and say, how can this come back to hurt the people?
I would also just add that, auxiliary dwelling units granted more than last week's, I'm a fan of them myself, and nothing we propose, for just the case that you said, would prohibit that. So they're called ADUs, auxiliary dwelling units. And, again, that's settled in code, not in the plan, but the thing we've written, does not, discourage it, certainly doesn't prohibit it.
Well, and I'll make this statement, and then if you don't mind, we'll move on to the second one so we can get through this presentation, but I do not like that at all. As a property owner, I don't want anybody coming through my barn and tell me what I need to throw away. And I'm sure everybody in the room's on that same page. But with that being said, the ordinances that we're talking about updating after we get this process done, that's where we would deal with that kind of thing. And then maybe we do have a fresh set of eyes. We'll have to talk to Gary back here about some finances, I'm sure, because it's not gonna be free. Right, Gary? But, yeah, I'll spend your money for you, Gary, and you just write the check. And if it's free, I'm sure we could get Gary on board with that. But, okay.
All right, so our next topic, and this was something that I got to learn about at the last steering committee, was the mid-state corridor. Can you flip it to the next one? If you are not aware of what the mid-state corridor, although I'm sure most of you guys know about more of this than I do, there is a proposed corridor through, let's see, Martin, Du Bois.
It starts in Greene County, and where I-69 hits Greene County. It's a plan being designed by ADOT. You can go to the site again, and Vince says is somehow on it. They've done some preliminary studies. It's not on ADOT's schedule, but it's for the road going from the Greene County south, all the way down, where 64 hits. What is that, Crawford County? Down there. It goes straight down and connects. This is the plan right from the website, and there is no plan to go north where you guys are. But
Sun coming. So you guys have some options, and this is where I would encourage your county and your land commission and your commissioners to be proactive on something, because there was a lot of worry here at our last steering committee meeting that this would go north through Owen County. So if you can flip to the next slide. So learning this information, some of our recommendations to your plan commission are going to be that this does need to be articulated in your transportation chapter of this comprehensive plan, that this is something that, what do you want for transportation in your county? If there is, typically, unfortunately, NDOT does have big plans that get funded by the state. I know that, again, in my small town, I like using my small town as an example, but, I had a comprehensive plan that we had worked on, and, we have a road extension that's being proposed. And it was something my community was 100% against. Had we not had information in our comprehensive plan that talked about what kind of growth and development we wanted in particular areas, if we didn't say that we wanted, certain amenities to come with the new roads, we wouldn't have had that input to give to NDOT to help guide them through that process. NDOT is becoming more and more, what is the word? They're getting encouraged more and more that they need to look at those local plans that get developed by, counties and cities and towns when they are doing their statewide planning. So this is your opportunity to say what you want to do in your county. So that would be 2 points. One is you guys do need to articulate in your transportation chapter that we will work on with you to say, if this were to happen, because, there is an extension going south, but what would it look like in Owen County? I want to say, and I don't want to be unrealistic, when NDOT has a project that's going to go through your county, it's probably going to happen, but you can help guide how that happens.
Is that NDOT or the federal government? I thought this was an interstate, which is not NDOT, but the feds.
but the feds work through NDOT to get it constructed. So Federal Highway Administration funnels that money into NDOT, so Federal Highway may say that this is what they want, and then NDOT.
But the map I saw had it going right up Fish Creek Road, right up.
And yeah, so that's, we're acknowledging this, that this could be a reality.
No, you're saying it's just in Greene County. The map I saw had it going right up the Fish Creek corridor.
And so that's, again, where we need to put something in your transportation chapter that acknowledges it and starts stating what you want. Another level of protection that your county could do is to develop what's called a thoroughfare plan. Thoroughfare plans are common tools that are used in other counties and even municipalities that talk more about what they want transportation to look like in their jurisdiction. I have the definition of it up there. You know, it's a planning tool that provides guidance on configuring the transportation system to support the community's future needs. And this is where you can say, you know, NDOT, if this is going to happen, this is what we want here, or what we don't want here. So those are two tools that we will be recommending and incorporating into your comprehensive plan to help address those fears and concerns with that mid-state.
Commissioner Purcell, I'll follow up with you, and if they actually do have a map, going north, and that even, double emphasizes Rachel's concerns to sort of get in here and make the communities, what the community wants clear.
I see a hand up back.
Yes.
I saw a map, and I saw the crews doing the work. There is a plan that takes it from Lafayette through here. The plan down Fish Creek, the road through Fish Creek was actually by a bypass to come around Spencer to go down 67, because at that time they thought 67 might be the I-69.
And if there aren't those official plans out there, if someone can forward it to us, we would love to take a look at it and make sure we address it appropriately.
The plan that I saw, and this was by a field crew that was doing the, looking for Indian artifacts, Indian burial mounds. They showed me the map from through here all the way north. I saw the study right there on the right-hand side where the Indian burial mounds is on the right-hand side of 231 up here. That was researching it. And that map showed Fish Creek Road as a bypass. But 231, the map that I saw a few years ago took it about a mile west or east of 231 now, bypassed Cloverdale about a mile, they bypassed Greencastle, they bypassed most of the bigger towns. And took it all up to, was it 25 at Lafayette, and connected it there. And I mean, I saw that a few years ago, but that's changing. I mean, look how many times it's changed by 69. And so, but I did see that.
I seen a hand right back there, but
So I've probably done more research on this whole mid-state corridor than anybody else. So this has actually all been in place since 1957. It's always been on the back burner that Interstate 67 would be the actual number designation for it. When they done the interstate highway system, it took precedence on the areas that needed traffic the most. And thus, at that point in time, Interstate 67 didn't make the right connections as compared to Interstate 70, Interstate 65, so on, etc. Now, we're obviously being more populated and a lot more interstate commerce and so on and so forth through the neighborhood. They are looking again at opening up this Interstate 67. And then along with that, there's also, I've heard this two different ways. McDaniels, they looked at the proposed route of building a secondary route around Indianapolis called 470. And then the other thing that I just heard a few days ago was 865. Use 865 as the loop designation for a second loop around Indianapolis. And the term that was thrown at me was about 50 miles out from the center of Indianapolis, which puts you right at the northeast corner of Owen County, right at the east side of Cloverdale. If they tie all this together, here's the rest of the story on Interstate 67. So they are already working on it, coming through Kentucky, up to Lagoon, Indiana. That's already a given, it will happen. And then the other thing that's happening at the same time right now is they're coming all the way from Mackinac, Michigan, down to Fort Wayne, Indiana. for the north end. If they put that loop around Indianapolis or even like proposal to even open up part of that loop, they will connect the dots and put Interstate 67 the rest of the way through the middle of Indiana. Not a matter of it, when.
So that's where you guys have this opportunity to plan for that. And like I said, that's the two key elements here are let's put something in a comp plan about it, and then let's do something and do a thoroughfare plan so that that's an even better way to help guide and show what your county wants.
I will say we are no fans of new terrain highways. I don't see the point of them, so we are with you on, whatever preservations, as far as you can take it with and done.
But having a voice instead of no voice is so much better, and that's what you need, is to have stuff that you had going into it saying that this is what you want, this is what you don't want, because if you don't have it articulated, and that has nothing to look at.
I kind of use a common sense approach to things. I've seen new roads going in many times. We get calls all the time for doing timber work where new roads are going in. They change their mind so much. I would not waste my time in the county on a theory. I would wait until there was more concrete proof. Because you're allowed to zone for this and zone for that, and do this and do that, go through a whole bunch, and make a bunch of people mad. For no reason, because the road went over there 2 miles or 3 miles further. And so, in which your plans are just, I know a guy bought down here by Freedom, bought a 1,300 acre farm, there by Farmers Ferry, because he thought Interstate 67 was going to go 69. Going to go through there, it was supposed to be an exchange. He had a map. Part of fortune. Somebody made no part of it, they made no part of it. So he bought a farm, I bought timber off the farm. And that's the reason he bought a farm to begin with, because he thought that road was going right through there, was going to be a gold mine. It wasn't.
I guess one of the questions, not to be harsh, but we've hired professionals to do this, and we have to tell you about this. That bothers me. What else is there out there that we don't know about, that you don't know about, that you should know about?
And like I said at the beginning, you guys are your community experts. We can look at the published documents that are online. When we did our research on this piece of it, we did find that website for the Mid-State Corridor, and we are addressing it. And that's why we go through the process.
But you never mentioned it in the original report.
Well, in the posted website, Owen County is not on it. Now, I know there's plans and there's discussions, I wouldn't be surprised, but in the published, whatever it's
The
called.
public information that's out there, you couldn't find any record of it in your county.
But you as professionals couldn't find it, but we have people here in the county that did, and you guys are the ones throwing the big bucks.
Well, but again, we didn't find it because it's right now, the publishing is not to go through Owen County. They've done environmental impact statements and things like that south of here, not this area.
And that is part of the process, is finding these things out that are on your local radar, that is not on a statewide level. All right.
I will say the forestry community has kind of done a forest impact study for Owen County, and we can provide that for you if you do need that at some point in time. The impact of forestry in this county.
All right, if you don't mind, folks, we'll move on to mobile homes, the next section of the discussion. Was there anything else on that last subject? Anybody? Okay, let's move on.
All right, our last topic. So we had a lot of comments back about mobile homes, and we did a deeper dive in the mobile home stuff, even with our last steering committee. We did find in Indiana State Code how mobile homes are defined and how manufactured homes are defined. So what I put together is just a little exhibit about which is which. So manufactured homes, these are built after 1974. And these are structures that, can come in parts and pieces, they get delivered to a site, and they get assembled at the site. They have a seal of compliance with federal manufactured housing, construction, and safety standards. They are a minimum of 23 feet wide and 950 square feet of what they call occupied space. And then they are placed on a permanent foundation.
Mobile homes, these were built prior to 1974, from when that federal law went into effect that then regulated how these types of structures were constructed. They may or may not have that federal seal on them. They are defined as a transportable dwelling unit, which is a minimum of 8 feet in width, less than 950 square feet, and they also can be built on a permanent structure, even though they are meant to be transported. But because of building codes, you have to have those straps on them, and they have to be attached to that foundation. A local government can regulate where these structures may be located within their jurisdiction. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what you guys currently do, and then what was in our comprehensive plan and how that comprehensive plan suggestion is just supporting what you guys already have. Your county currently only regulates the location of mobile homes in a mobile home park. So manufactured homes are allowed in other places, but if you have a true old school, or pre-1974 construction of mobile homes, those have to be located in a mobile home park.
We have some that's not there. Yeah. We have a lot.
Okay, so in our draft 2022 plan that we are working on with you guys, we did have a provision in there that the implementation, one of the implementation charts. I'm going to read it for you, but I'm going to pop over here because it's a little difficult from where I was standing. So our goal number 3 is to grow quality housing opportunities in Owen County. And one of the action items is to require that mobile homes be located within mobile home parks with specific standards and not just on individual lots. Next slide, please. All right, so when I pull your existing subdivision, your zoning and subdivision control ordinance, you guys have your residential areas broken down into 3 categories. The first one is just your general residential development standards. You have a multifamily development standard, and then you do have a mobile home park development standard. Currently, mobile homes are, like I said, only listed to be allowed in that district. But you can have manufactured homes in any of your other districts. So there's just kind of some difference in language. So I think there was some hesitation that, we were saying that you couldn't have manufactured homes on your single family lots, and that was not accurate. It's the true mobile homes that were built before federal regulations were in place for housing is what we're talking about. So I hope that makes that a little more clear. And maybe flip it back 2 slides so you can have the picture back up. So mobile homes are not the same as manufactured homes. Yes?
I have a question. Sure. Okay, you were talking about the mobile homes, it's pre-1974, but there are mobile homes that are new now that, and they're nice, they're expensive, and so where do they fall into this?
So they would be classified as that manufactured home,
Even though they are not on like a permanent foundation, they have the,
if they are being constructed today, they need to be constructed with that permanent foundation. So the
what
mobile,
you classify as
and
permanent foundation?
there is, that would be a building code question, and I'm not a building code. But the manufactured homes, there is a size restriction on it too. So, if you're at 950 square feet or the 23 feet wide,
We have older
that's
mobile
what
homes, we
classifies
have
as
double wide
manufactured
that sits
home.
on
If it's
property.
smaller, it's
They're
going
not
to be over
very
the
large.
mobile home designation.
So why are we even,
Is this an ordinance that's already on the books then?
There is a state law that's already in the books, and the state law designates these 2 items. So it defines what a manufactured home is, it defines what a mobile home is, and then it gives the municipalities and your local government the power to regulate where those go into the community.
And that law is on the Owen County.
In your community, in Owen County, it is designated that the mobile homes have to be in a mobile home park currently.
Well, what about the 16 by 80 mobile homes I see like pull down the road all the time on wheels and get set up on lots with a foundation that are strapped down? They're not in either one of these categories because the manufacturing home is 23 feet wide.
And that's where we.
Yeah, so they're not in either one of those categories. What about them?
I'm not sure how your current permitting process goes, but this may be a permitting issue that we need to make sure that your ordinance is very clear on where these are defined and how they're defined. And then when someone applies for a permit to have one of these structures placed, we need to make sure that your staff is equipped and has the tools they need to be very clear on where these can go and where they cannot go.
So because they don't, in either one of those categories right there, you can approve those.
And I would say that your existing zoning ordinance doesn't clarify it very well either.
But some of them are nice, to be, they're affordable.
I think the point is the current ordinance as written does not address what you're talking about, which is a problem. And yeah, I mean, we have the little homes, there's a tiny home for sale out by me, right? Yeah, but the square footage.
Going through the ordinance process, you guys can say what is a bigger community and what is not.
Now that
I mean, of
ordinance-
course, there's Indiana building code that has to be followed, but if you want additional, I don't want to say restrictions. It is kind of a restriction, you know, on where those can get placed or how they're constructed, then that's your opportunity to say what's appropriate for your community.
So
Hasn't there always been, when it's 1974, 1978, you couldn't even move one. I don't know what you're counting.
Say that again?
What was in place?
Each county is different, but,
Right.
1974, 1978, you couldn't move one anyway. It was always a rule. You weren't allowed to move them, put them on property before that year.
Right, so those are, they are the choices you need to work through in the next round.
So again, the question I would have then is, that discussion is for the ordinance part of our, not this, right? Okay, all right.
Would it make more sense to just leave the pre-1974? Is only allowed in the mobile home parks and kind of leave the manufactured homes more open for the ordinance and zoning for a later date? And again, and just emphasize that pre-1974 homes and width and that kind of information from manufactured homes.
Right, so the manufactured home, I think we just need to be clear in our comprehensive plan what we're talking about. So we are talking about the mobile homes, you know, this isn't a new thing for your community.
I guess what you're saying is leave the mobile home thing in there, but cut the manufacturing completely out of the plan.
Yeah, and just clarify that this is concerning pre-1974, like make that big.
The only thing that's in your comprehensive plan that we're gonna have is, can you flip it forward?
It just says mobile home.
Would be this page. So we're not defining that.
What is it?
It says mobile home.
This says require mobile homes to be located within mobile home parks with specific standards, not on individual lots.
But I think if you
You can't do that. We have tons of people that live in trailers on private property.
But this is a guiding document, not a regulatory document. So that language needs to be in your ordinance, not necessarily in your comp plan.
Is that something that we guys strike out and then kind of the ordinance?
It helps guide your ordinance development.
Then we need to confirm the definitions better of a mobile home and not limit it to a manufactured home of 23.
That's an Indiana code element. So even if we define, we're repeating what's Indiana.
I think though that we could add a stated intent, whether it's mobile homes or some of these things, that these kinds of homes can fill a need in a county that needs housing. Again, it's always the person that takes it too far, but certainly we can state the intent that small homes and some of these things, the intent is, you know, look at closely while promoting different types of affordable homes.
Maybe put in there, you know, seed planting or ordinance and zoning for further clarification. Because, I mean, I understand, yeah, it's mostly in mobile home parks, but they are a very good fit, especially for people buying large lots of land and then move them in temporarily to live in.
Yeah,
for
they
great
call it
also,
Right.
Restricted.
But again, this is where you would be addressing that in your ordinance, because if it is a temporary home, you know,
But it's
you
not
have
that, but it's right there in the goal,
if we put that verbiage in the goal, see, zoning and ordinance for clarification. Then we can, then a lot of people that are questioning about the property, they have a little trouble, okay, that's in the ordinance, but they're
Well, I said, does that need to
Just
go?
making sure that it's defined somewhere.
Right, and then that puts them back on there, and we invite them to make it look right.
I'm questioning it because of the fact that you have, you know, acreage out in a rural area that people are showing their.
Can I ask if everyone can be quiet for just a minute so we can hear what she has to
If
say?
we had a parent, a grandparent, or whatever wanted to move and be right there on our property so we can take care of them, and it's an older mobile home, you're not gonna let us put a mobile home on there that they can afford so that they can be there for us to take care of.
Have the right
That's
to do.
Is that where that's going?
Yes, and that's where if you put the C zoning and ordinance for clarification, because we talked about putting like the ADU in there for some mother-in-law to use that kind of stuff. It would probably just, people would have another resource other than just saying, you're not allowed out, because that's how people are treated.
Here, I'm gonna just tell you something.
You're gonna what?
I'm gonna tell you something, my personal opinion. I drove school buses in this county for 21 years, and I drove every bus route in this county except for 2. And I am telling you and challenging you to get on every bus route in this county and drive around this county and see how many mobile homes that people are living in that this is going to affect.
Yes,
I'm telling you.
Okay, so let's talk about this too. There's a difference between if someone is changing something or if it's staying the same. So the ones that you're driving around and seeing, this is not saying that those have to go. Those stay. But at some point, if someone else brings a new one in, that is where, and this is, again, can we go back to the,
like this lady was talking about her family member, you know, would that totally affect that, right? That would be something,
this is new one that would be coming in that was built the pre-74 and wasn't the right, it wasn't the size defined by law.
or just a temporary home.
So if she had one that was a 23-foot wide, 900 square feet,
Right.
then that's a manufactured home. And if your ordinance,
It's gonna hurt our family.
that allows that.
That's gonna hurt our families. That needs to go out.
No, they're not gonna put a foundation down, they're wanting a temporary home, but they're building for, like, she was saying, you know, for a family
But
member.
not narrated like that.
They're not really
What
wanting to put a
about people
whole.
living in RVs right now?
For
Full-time.
So do you think the zoning ordinance then would be strengthened to
Are you
say
gonna
what
make people
temporary,
homeless?
what the temporary definition is?
No, I think that the key there is the redefining what mobile home is. And tie it in more into age, because, let's face it, 1974 mobile home, if you try to move it down the road, a year, it's gonna fall apart, okay? But under the definitions you have here, a brand new 16 by 80 home could not be put in a rural area that's not
And that's
mobile home. That's the problem, because there's a lot of, you know, I go back to an old saying, that used to be said, oh, poor people have poor ways. People have to have a home according to their income. Not everybody's got $100,000 a year, $150,000 a year income. There's a lot more people out there with $30,000 incomes. They need homes too. And the quality of life they have, they can have a better life, they can choose living in an apartment in town and try to raise 3 kids in an apartment complex where they have 5 acres that grandma gave them out here, and they're gonna put a mobile home on it, they can raise their 3 kids out there and raise a garden and have a lot better quality of life and raise better kids for the future. And that's what this doesn't address. That's exactly what this doesn't
Your
address.
current, what we're telling you is your current ordinances, not your current comp, but your current ordinances say this. That's why we're bringing this up to you. So just to be clear here, we are not proposing something, we are alerting you on something that's already in your existing code and bringing it up for discussion. So I don't want this to get out of hand.
Yeah, this needs to be, right, this needs to be addressed.
Yes. Yes, sir.
I think it needs to go out, so we need to change the ordinance.
And we can talk about intent too, though. The comp plan can't talk about intent.
It seems to me that something like the mobile home issue should be determined by the voters of the county and not by 4% of the voters of the county.
So what I'm hearing is, we need to revise this action item in your plan. Yes,
So
so
I can
people
see how a lot of people would, you know, the uppity ups would be like, oh, I want mobile homes in my area. But this is our community, and I feel like we should have the right to say what we want here and what we don't. For sure, I mean, there's a lot of our community that is mobile home. There's certainly a lot more coming in.
I think you'll find in practice, we're probably violating the law we've got.
Very much so, very much so.
Now, at the same time, I have seen, I won't mention names, some people who have bought a farm, busted up in a little tracts, go up to Indianapolis where they've torn out a mobile home court, and now they put condos, and they bought these old mobile homes and pulled them down here and sold them on contract and, you know.
So what's the current ordinance right now for Owen County on that?
Well, the current ordinance, we're not following, because we're allowing you to put a mobile home, but according to them, the current thing says you cannot.
That was going to be my next question. When did that ordinance go in? When did they put that in?
Assuming 2010 when they did the other comprehensive plan, right?
Yeah, I don't know who wrote your code, we didn't write your code.
Violating every day.
Original plan.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, it goes back 20 years.
So,
Okay, hey, come on. So, Rachel, you want to summarize what we
folks, so if I'm hearing right, when we get to the ordinances, we're gonna have to address the mobile home issue, correct? Yes? Okay, all right, so and we will do that. Let's go ahead and let her wrap up so we can all get home at a decent hour tonight.
All right, so we do hear you loud and clear that that part needs to be revised and more clear. So we will work on doing that, and we will check with the state law to make sure that we are in compliance with state law. We don't want to guide you in a way that's going to put you not in compliance with the state law, as much as you rule breakers want it to be. Ready to get that here, but, so we'll work on that and make sure that we get an update on what we find out and then what our balance can be on that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right.
Next time you have these meetings, we'll just get a PA system, because a lot of us can't hear very good.
I think we.
I've got a PA system, you need it.
Well, we moved it out here because we couldn't get you all into that room, and it was quite toasty last time too. And I don't know if you noticed, but I've got a little extra around the middle and I melt. But yes, I do want to encourage everyone to come next week. These discussions are good. This is what we've been after, at least this is what I've been after. So hopefully, I think we'll have a sound system at the high school gym. I think I can make that happen. We'll see. Anyway, I want to encourage everybody to come to that meeting as well and voice what you think, what you believe. You know, we don't know unless we ask you, and we're not going to know unless you tell us. All right? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so to kind of reiterate, I'll let Scott take it.
So to wrap up, we have a meeting next week. Then what we'll do is we'll do the second version. We'll make that available too, and we'll make a guide to the second version. This should change made on page 12, this made on page 13, so that you can track the changes. And then we'll send the second version out. And then make it available to you all. But we gotta wait till we have this next public meeting, and it'll take us a couple of weeks to make those changes. And then, like I said, all the changes will be tracked, so you can see you can see exactly the edits we made. But we will be making these edits that we've talked about tonight, as well as the one we just mentioned on the mobile home.
Or it's never money.
Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you guys for your feedback, and the last year's community was excellent.
Why are you so easy on her?
Okay. So, and I did have some people asking for how do you get a hold of Scott or Rachel. Take a picture with your phone, email these folks. If you think of something after you get home, these are the people to contact. And then next week, come to the meeting and say, hey, did you see my email? They'll respond. And that's how we get things changed, and that's how we get them the way we want them, by letting people know. So at this time, if there's any other public comment, feel free, but if not, I'm going to ask the commission if they have anything further. Yeah. Yeah, that's where we're at now. Are you got something? Okay. Baron? Go ahead.
I've been messing around with this comprehensive plan since, back in July of last year. And I've been studying it and going through it. And the point I'm going to try to make real quickly, I'm going to go fast. In my opinion, it's a lot of stuff, and I published it, I've got, everybody got types of paper, showed all the categories. In my interpretation, my understanding, right, the pledge of allegiance to the flag will no longer apply. It won't be a republic. You're gonna end up with this 5-man team, 5-person, 2 of them are gonna be elected, the other 5 are appointed, and when they come up with all these rules, regulations, ordinances, changes, you'll have a bunch of people making decisions for you, rather than your elected people. So, you can argue all you want, you can say, what's in the plan, or we've got elected officials, yeah, you only get 2 out of the 5. And the Indiana code on that is 3674 207. It actually says the commission will be one of the people, right, now we call it 9-7. You'll have 2 elected people, 5 that are not, and they're gonna make decisions for all land usage and ordinances, and they can write this thing any way they want. Like I said before, this is the contract, right? And the county commissioner signs a big off, okay, right? Then it probably take about a year and a half to start to do the effects of their action, because the plan goes through the detail, your comprehensive plan, talks about regionalism, talks about management districts, talks about flood, solar plans, right? Their plans are wonderful. I mean, the guys who wrote this are fantastic, right? But I believe that they're basically socialists, and they really want regionalism in our county, and to adopt all the things that they want, and it's really bad for us. And it's just the first step to go into regionalism form of committed governance. And just like it says down here, on the first page, if you go to 3674 205 and 205, you'll find out that this comprehensive plan committee will operate by law, and it becomes a new legislative body. That's what it actually says in the law. So they're going to circumvent a lot of people, do a lot of terrible things, and all they're doing is aiming to collective, communistic action, sustainability, stakeholders, districts, and all that kind of stuff. This has been going on for a long time. I do have a letter here from Colonel Roberts, who addressed the Indiana State Legislature back in 1976. He explained very specifically where these people are going in the future. Well, this is the future, right? And so here it is. All the stuff that he said in the Indiana State Legislature back in 1976 about regionalism and how they slowly sneak it in over a period of time. It's all coming to pass here in this county. So if you get a chance, read Colonel Roberts' report to the Indiana State Legislature. He'll prove to you and show you what I'm talking about is true. And that's all I have to say.
Baron, I want to correct you. There are 3 elected officials on this board. There are 3, not 2.
I don't know if that's true.
And it still goes to the commissioners, which are all elected before anything's done anyway. Okay. Anybody else? Commission, anybody got any? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
I just want to know how much money the county gets for signing up to this.
How much money, what?
The county gets for signing up to this comprehensive plan.
We paid to have this done. We're not getting anything.
But you can't get grants and stuff unless you have a company.
Right, we're out of, yeah, if we're not in compliance, we can't apply for the grants, right?
We've already got a plan for 2010.
Yeah.
The governor came down here with a representative, promised $500 million if you'll sign up. I know about that. I wasn't invited to it.
What is this? What?
So I know there's a lot of money out there that's hanging in grants. If you sign up, only if you sign up.
Oh.
Yes, sir, Yes, sir,
Okay, did you guys have anything?
I make a motion.
All right, motion to adjourn, second. Oh, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Well, I appreciate your time, thank you very much, and again, follow up,
Oh.
I want to know how. Not, no, we just come up with 5.